How would you like a 15% discount to my daily email, the stack of stuff, the show notes, discounts to the conference, all of that? All you need to do is text the word show to 33777. You'll get the annual subscription with a 15% discount to my daily email. You'll get the stack of stuff, the links to the show notes, discounts to the conference, and so much more. All you have to do is text the word show, SHOW, to 33777. Text show to 33777.
Welcome to the Eric Erickson Show podcast, Hour 3.
Hello, welcome. It's Eric Erickson here across the United States. Glad to have you with me. The phone number is 877-973-7425. Should you wish to be on the program, it is an open line Friday today on Thursday because I'm going to the Masters with my boy tomorrow. Father-son outing. I'm actually really excited to take my son. You know, people told me when your kids were, oh, it's such a fun age when you're, no, it's not a fun age when your kids are little because you've got poopy diapers and temper tantrums and you got to get them to bed. And if they don't get to bed, they have meltdowns. It is not a fun age when they're little. It's not. They say cutesy things like my daughter used to say flabingo instead of flamingo and interstate instead of interstate. And she was probably 10 years old before we finally told her it was route guidance instead of Ralph guidance. And she always wondered why Ralph had a woman's voice. Those are adorable things, but it's not a fun age. It's a fun age when you get to go to the movies together, and it's a movie that you actually enjoy, that your kids are going to enjoy, and you get to go to Las Vegas and shoot machine guns together, or your son wants to go to the Masters. My thanks to the Atlanta Journal-Constitution for getting me a couple tickets to go to the Masters. I was going to go on Wednesday. A couple was willing to take us, and then the AJC asked me to do an event for them, and I couldn't go. And they're like, well, we'll give you tickets on Friday, which was even better for my son because he's having his wisdom teeth out on Monday, so it was perfect. And then the event I was doing for the AJC got canceled. So there you have it. I'm glad to go. Thank you to them. And before I get to any more phone calls, and there are some I very much want to get to, I have to talk to you about Rote Dogma. What is Rote Dogma? Well, you know what dogma is. It's your beliefs in certain ways. Let me pull up here the actual definition of dogma so you have it. Dogma is something that is an established opinion, an authoritative tenet. A code of such tenets, a point of view put forth as authoritative without adequate grounds, or a doctrine or body of doctrines concerning faith or morals formally stated and authoritatively proclaimed by a church. For Protestants, it is justification by faith alone. Dogma. It is your sincere belief. And one of the notable things about dogma is dogma may come from doctrine, but oftentimes the people who believe the dogma, what separates dogma from doctrine is that the dogma is a belief and you don't actually have the underlying philosophical ideas to back it up. And when it becomes a rote dogma, it becomes parroted and memorized, and it's just something you say. It's like memorizing the catechism. What is the chief end of man? Question number 1. The chief end of man is to glorify God and enjoy him forever. Now, people use dogma pejoratively, and it's not meant necessarily to be pejorative, but it becomes a matter of conviction. The things you say become a matter of conviction. And when it is rote conviction or rote dogma, it is something that you can just flat out recite, rote learning, memorization through repetition and quick recall. And I want to play you a video now of rote dogma. This is a Canadian member of Parliament. She is from a small parliamentary group of Canadian Indians. They would call them the native peoples in Canada. And she is of the fringe. She's not in the majority. She's not a Labour Party member. And you're about to hear an example of rote dogma that is going to blow your mind.
When the budget was released, I was shocked to find out that Prime Minister Carney is cutting $7 billion between Indigenous Services Canada and Crown Indigenous Relations. They provided $0 to deal with the ongoing genocide of MMIW G2SLGBTQIA+. This is abhorrent. This is callous. This is callous because the very Liberal government that has stripped organizations of life-sustaining funding has now committed $13 billion. $13 billion on military spending. Who is paying for it? Indigenous women across this country, Indigenous women, girls to us, LGBTQIA+, are not safe. In fact, rates of violence are increasing. And what is the Prime Minister doing? He is turning a blind eye on this violence. You know, the Prime Minister talks a lot about projects of national interest. What is in the national interest are the lives, safety, security, and dignity, not in the national interest of Indigenous women and girls to us LGBTQIA+. Is the Prime Minister okay having Indigenous women to us LGBTQIA+ family members and organization coming to Parliament begging time and time again to see our humanity? Is he okay with that? Well, clearly, with his behavior the other day, laughing at a woman from Grassy Narrows who is suffering from mercury poisoning, having to beg for an apology is an example of how this Prime Minister has turned his back on Indigenous peoples, particularly Indigenous women and girls to us LGBTQIA+. And what does that look like? It looks like rates of violence increasing.
To a casual observer, it may sound like Lee Gazan, who is the minority party politician, has Tourette's syndrome. QQTAPP111MM333GGXZ. But she's not flailing about and screaming MMIWG. She is actually continuing to pronounce the lettering 2SLGBTQIA++3. This is what rote dogma looks like. Notice she didn't trip over it at all. That's how profoundly indoctrinated she is. MMIWG2SLGBTQIA+. MMIWG2SLGBTQIA+. 2SLGBTQIA+. What does the MMIWG stand for? Missing or murdered Indigenous women and girls. They keep adding letters. It is the alphabet game. Missing or murdered Indigenous women and girls, two spirits, lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, questioning. What does the I stand for now? Androgynous is the one. Intersex, androgynous. They're ally as well. So you get LGBTQIAATP. And then they add the plus, because who knows? God forbid you could have other letters and numbers that are forgotten. Y'all, it's insane. It is insane. And the far left agrees with this. And the most interesting thing to me and others who heard this is how she doesn't stumble over the letters. Now, you're asking what the two-spirit people are. Well, the two-spirit people is a white person appropriation of American Indian and Canadian Indian culture of two spirits. You have the spirit of the man, the spirit of the woman, and you could have two-spirit people. It's totally absurd. The queer, questioning, intersex, androgynous, allies, the murdered and the missing Indigenous women and girls, the LGBTQIATPPIA+. It's the alphabet gang. And it's nonsensical. But notice over the years, we went from the gay community to the gay and lesbian community to the LGB community because we needed to include the bisexuals in it. And then it went to the LGBT community. And now these days, it's most common for the progressive, say, LGBTQ community. Occasionally the LGBTQ plus community, because the Q is the queer, but then it becomes the QQ community, LGBTQQ plus community, because you have the queer and the questioning. Am I straight? Am I gay? Am I bisexual? Am I queer? Am I a lesbian? And what does queer have to do with it? Well, queer is apparently now a state of mind. You may not be gay or lesbian or bisexual. You may just be queer, which means you appreciate the culture. And, well, you may be questioning, am I swinging that way or not? But I just ally with them. But you also need the A for the ally who isn't queer but is an ally to the queer community. The whole thing is garbage, gobbledygook nonsense. AAAITTP, ABCDEFG. How can you take these people seriously? And again, I must point out, never, ever, ever, ever take seriously someone who has pronouns in her Twitter bio, which this woman does. Lee Proud Lakota. Her actual last name is Gazan. Not because she's from Gaza, but she's a she-her. I'm actually stunned to find out she's a she-her and not a she-them or a she-they or a they-them or a they-it or an it-they or a ze-zer. I mean, you know, the transgender questioning community of Italy, they go by Caesar because they want to be like Caesar. I would like a Caesar salad, please. Oh, you got a Caesar salad in your word letters. These are nutty people. But it's rote dogma. It is what they believe. And by the way, if your kids are in a public school in the United States of America, increasingly, they're being assaulted with this stuff by teachers who have, in fact, decided to turn schools into progressive communes of indoctrination. In Nashville, Tennessee, Overton High School, isn't it funny, the Overton window, Overton High School, they've now decided that they are going to reserve space on campus where students can pray in the afternoon for Ramadan, since one of the 5 daily prayers falls during school days. And they're going to get electronic hall passes, granting them permission to go leave. 80 students signed up. Now, here's the thing. In truth, I look at this and find it to be a reasonable accommodation. I grew up in the Middle East. I understand Ramadan. And what I find so interesting now is that a spokesman for the public school system in Metro Nashville says that students were provided accommodation as needed during prayer time so they could briefly leave class. Similar accommodations would have been given in other places, and I find this to be a reasonable accommodation. You may not accept that we have mass Muslim immigration in this country, and I do think it's something to be questioning in this country how far we've gone, but we have it, and we should accommodate sincerely held religious beliefs that don't otherwise impact you. And letting students go pray is not going to impact you. But would they do it for the Christians? I would know to the Nashville public school system, the Christmas holiday is now called winter break, and they get off for Good Friday, but they now call it spring break. On the school system, Frida Player voted to allow kids as young as in kindergarten to have a gender support plan. She's an Al Gore alumnus and a Ketanji Brown Jackson fan. Berthina Naba McKinney is the first Muslim elected to the board, and she's an advocate for Colin Kaepernick and World Hijab Day. Zach Young swore in on a stack of woke books instead of on a Bible and refers to himself as weird and woke and wears a Pride Progress pin and has a fanboyed over Colin Kaepernick. Abigail Tyler identifies as a Christian, and she voted for a resolution affirming gender confusion of children of all ages as proven an effective mental health intervention and is a big advocate of Pride Month. These are the people who populate the public school system of the Metro Nashville public school system. I am not one of those people who believes it is a sin to send your kid to public school. In many places, they have no options. But I am telling you, people, that if you can get your child out of the public schools, you need to get your child out of the public school. And if you can't, you need to be highly and actively engaged in the public school before your kid comes home and starts rattling off MMIWG2 SLGBTQQIA+ without stumbling or stuttering, because your kid is going to be indoctrinated, not educated, in the public schools of America these days. Hello, America. It's Eric Erickson here. I want to go to the phones to Ray. Ray, thanks for being patient. Welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm wonderful, Mr. Erickson. How are you?
I'm great. What's going on?
Listen, I'm so glad I'm about to break into tears here. I'm sorry. Listen, I'm glad you brought up the homeless veteran situation. I've been a homeless veteran here in Atlanta. It's been tough. And something that people need to be aware of is that you're covering the homeless situation. Some of those places are so toxic there, some of the provisions that they have even for us, they're so toxic. They're worse than the streets. And, I got my best sleep in a city park somewhere. I've lived in a storage room. The manager was aware of it. I didn't cause any problems. I never broke into anybody's houses. I never robbed anybody. Worst thing I did was maybe ask for a cigarette. But thanks for covering that.
You back on your feet now, Ray?
I'm much better. Things change from day to day, but I'm doing well for now. And so the family's helped me, and I'm doing better, but still struggling.
You take it a day at a time. I'm glad you're listening, and thank you for calling. And yeah, I just Ray, that you put the other side on this too. That there, some of the places that we tell homeless people to go in a situation like you've got a bunch of people with mental health problems in one room and they're not getting treatment. It's sometimes safer to sleep outside. And not have the noise and issues there, but there's got to be a solution, particularly for guys like you, Ray. And thank you again for calling in. A homeless veteran, we should not have homeless veterans in our society. Speaking of, this was not a segue in. It really wasn't. I didn't until Kobe just told me in my ear. Old Glory Bank actually works with partners around the country to get homeless veterans bank accounts, because in a lot of cases, homeless veterans have benefits that have to accrue to them, but they have to have a checking account. And so they partner with nonprofits working with homeless veterans. We should not have homeless veterans in our society. We just shouldn't. We should be able to provide for our veterans, and we put them through crappy VA services, and we don't help them with their mental health problems. We should go above and beyond, and I'm glad I partner with a company like Old Glory Bank that really does. And they also have the Old Glory Protect benefits for active duty military, for first responders, for the Border Patrol. If you have an account with direct deposit, you can check out Old Glory Protect. It is a protection for you if, God forbid, the worst happens, to take care of your family. You can find out more at oldglorybank.com/Eric. They have a heart for our veteran, first responder, and active duty military community. They really do. They're committed to them, whether it's helping homeless veterans or doing Old Glory Protect for active duty military and first responders and Border Patrol agents. Find out more at oldglorybank.com/Eric. They're great, by the way, for your kids if you need a custodial account. They're an online bank. They've got great apps, bill pay, budgeting tools, all those things you need. oldglorybank.com/Eric. oldglorybank.com/ERICK. Member FDIC, equal housing lender. Terms and conditions apply. So relevant to all of you, particularly those of you listening down here in Georgia where I am, but nationwide, Delta Airlines, one of the largest airlines in the world and in the United States in particular, had its earnings call. Very good, beat estimates, but it's announcing plans to cut capacity because of higher fuel costs related to the situation overseas. The U.S.-based carrier signals adjustments. The decision comes with jet fuel rising sharply. Delta expects that rising fuel costs will significantly impact its cost base, projecting an increase of approximately $2 billion. In response, the airline is adjusting its planned capacity growth, likely reducing the number of flights or slowing expansions on certain routes. The strategy is designed to maintain profitability while aligning supply more closely with demand. The airline's also expected to continue focusing on operational efficiency to offset cost pressures. Delta expects a $300 million benefit in the second quarter of 2026 from its refinery, up from $60 million in the first quarter as margins widen. The capacity cuts could affect both domestic and international networks, depending on demand trends and route profitability. Airlines often respond to higher costs by tightening schedules and improving load factors and prioritizing high-yield markets. That could translate into fewer available seats and higher ticket prices, possibly. This is a quote from the CEO at Bastion. Demand remains strong, and we're taking actions to protect our margins and cash flow. This includes meaningfully reducing capacity growth with a downward bias until the fuel environment improves and moving quickly to recapture higher fuel costs. Delta is best positioned to navigate this environment with a leading brand, strong financial foundation, and the benefit of our refinery. You know, they did have the foresight to buy an oil refinery to help them manage their own costs. A really amazing foresight there by the company to do that. But one of the biggest airlines in the nation feeling the effects of this, and in fact, Qantas Airlines has a bunch of those A380s. Those are the giant double-decker planes, and they have decided to ground them now. I'm sorry, not Qantas, Qatar Airlines. They're going to ground them for April and May, in large part because of the costs of flying right now and the fuel costs, plus all the disruptions due to the war over there. So having spillover effects on the war into the flight market right now. Now, the phone number here, 877-973-7425. I want to go to Tisha. You're going to be up next. Thanks for being patient. Welcome to the Eric Erickson Show.
Hi, thank you for having me. I just had two questions. My first question is, what happens if the ships decide that we're not paying, we're passing, and we're not going to pay you? I mean, Iran has been their military has been destroyed and things like that. So what are they going to do? They're going to go after Japan? So what happens if all the ships get together and just pass anyway? And my second question
let me answer that one for you, because that may spring something else to you. So Iran has a fleet of high-speed boats, and they can literally sail those boats out to tankers, throw explosives on the side of the tankers, turn around, sail away, and hit the trigger and blow up the boats. They can do that still. We haven't eliminated that capacity. They also they still have a large quantity of mines, and they can mine parts of the Persian Gulf where ships would normally pass. So they've got ways to still, and they're willing, by the way, they are willing to sink oil tankers. They have shown their willingness to do it in just the last month. So that's why they can still charge the toll.
Well, couldn't we treat them like the Venezuelan boats that tried to pass?
We should. We should actually have our Navy out there blowing up the speedboats, and we're trying to negotiate with the Europeans so that the Europeans now come in and help us keep the Strait of Hormuz open. And frankly, I think we need to be carpet bombing some of the islands there where they have built up massive supplies of these mines and boats, and we haven't done that because they also have civilians on the islands, which makes carpet bombing problematic. But yeah, there are things we need to do, and we just haven't put them in place. If America sets its mind to reopening the Strait of Hormuz, we could do it. We just haven't put our mind to doing it.
Which brings me to my second question. So without leaving the UN, why don't we just pay what the lowest person is paying? For example, if, let's say, France is only paying 0.5% of their GDP. Okay, well, that's what we're going to pay. No more, no less. I can't love you better than you love yourself.
You know, so great question. So every payment to the United Nations is based on GDP, and it's a percentage of GDP, and we honestly haven't actually paid our bill in quite a while. So we owe them a lot of money that we've just refused to pay the United Nations for a number of years. Typically, Congress strips it out of the budget, so we technically pay the UN, but not really. We haven't actually written our check to the UN in quite some time.
That's good to hear.
Yeah, it is. What a worthless organization. Tisha, thanks very much for calling. Appreciate it. What a completely worthless organization. Jack, you're going to be up next on the Eric Erickson Show. Welcome.
Yeah, thank you very much, Eric. I know this seems like a crazy question to be asking with all the craziness going on, but first of all, with 6 months to go, what is your overall take on the midterm elections as far as how in the national elections for the midterms? And is Trump going to be crazy enough to try to run a third time? And who do you think is the leading candidate to win the presidency in 2028? Thank you.
Jack, great question. So first of all, no, Trump's not going to run again in 2028. He's already said he can't. He respects the Constitution despite all the left-wing hysteria. It's not going to happen. So he will not be running again. I do think on the Republican side, it's Vance, although Vance has hinted he's not necessarily sure he's going to run. If it's not him, it'll be Rubio. And it's going to be hard-pressed to beat either one of them on the Republican side. On the Democratic side, I don't think it'll be Gavin Newsom. Enough Democrats hate Gavin Newsom. I don't think it'll be him. Honestly, it probably would be Kamala Harris. Wouldn't be surprised if it was Kamala Harris. If the Democrats decide she got a raw deal, let her do it again and see what happens there. As for the midterms, the Republicans, there are increasing signs the GOP is going to get wiped out in the midterms. I don't actually think it's going to be wipeout. But I would be lying to you if I didn't tell you the signs weren't there. The signs are very much there for a complete wipeout of the GOP in November. I don't think it's going to happen because of Democratic unfavorabilities. The problem, however, is that Republicans just simply are not showing up. Republicans in Georgia in that special election to replace Marjorie Taylor Greene, they simply didn't show up. And the Republican won by 10 points in a district where he should have won by 30 points. Now, part of it was the runoff was during spring break for a lot of the counties in that area, and a lot of people were out and didn't participate on day of elections. But the Republicans in Georgia did not do a strong early vote campaign. They didn't do an early vote push, and his campaign couldn't handle it itself. And part of the problem for that guy, Clay Fuller is his name, he's going to be the congressman now, at least temporarily. And part of the problem for Clay Fuller is that he's in a special election to fill Marjorie Taylor Greene's seat. And he is also running to become the next congressman. And his Republican opponents, many of them decided to also run in that primary. And they had to, by the nature of qualifying in Georgia, they had to be able to hedge their bets on that. And many of them aren't withdrawing from that race. They want to challenge him again. And there's another primary coming up in a month that Clay Fuller, the now incumbent congressman, is going to have to go through unless his Republican opponents walk away from it. And the president's trying to rally people to keep him out of it. But Republican voters are not showing up. And this is a pattern we're seeing around the country in these special elections. And you can certainly say that you can only extrapolate so much from special elections. And you're absolutely right. The problem, however, is when the pattern is consistent in special elections, regardless of month and regardless of geographic area, that plays out in the general election in November. How do I know? Look at 2010. Look at 2018. Look at 2014. In 2010, Democrats kept saying when they kept losing elections, they should have won. Oh, it's just a special election. The party out of power. They're way more motivated, blah, 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 blah. But it doesn't translate into the general election in November. And it did. In 2018, same thing. Democrats started winning special elections all over the country in places they normally don't. And Republicans were like, it's special elections. You can only read so much in special elections. This doesn't mean it's going to be the case in November. And it was. In 2022, Democrats were dismissive of Republican wins in parts of the country, and we got to November, and the Democrats were able to do way better than people expected because the Republican Party was viewed so negatively, and therein lies the 2026 conundrum for the Democrats. The Democrats right now are viewed as negatively by the country as the Republicans were in 2022, and the Republicans were able to pick up the House, but barely. My suspicion is the Democrats will pick up the House, but barely. I don't actually think they'll win the Senate. But I can tell you, if things keep going in the direction they're going economically in this country with the cost of gas, with the cost of beef, with the cost of groceries, the Democrats are going to blow it out of the water and put the Senate in play. Because everybody votes for their pocketbook. You can have give me all the speeches you want about how you're voting for culture, you're voting for your family, you're voting for your future, you're voting for your pocketbook. 100% of the time, you're voting for your pocketbook. And if independent voters who don't particularly like Trump think he's putting their pocketbook in jeopardy, they will turn out en masse for the Democratic Party, whether they want to or not, because they want somebody to protect their pocketbook, and they don't think they're getting it from Trump. There's time for him to change, thank God. The worst thing that could happen was the Democrats taking the House and the Senate. We got to do what we can to stop them. Frankly, I also think that's why the president needs to go in and finish this war in Iran right now, because was to stop Iran after September to plug up the Strait of Hormuz, and the president has to go back to war, and that has a negative impact on the country. You might as well do it right now, Mr. President. Guy from Vero Beach, Florida, you're up next. Welcome.
Thank you. You and many others have said Marco Rubio is a possible candidate for president in the next election run.
Yes.
Marco Rubio is not a natural-born citizen. He's not constitutionally legally qualified under Article 2, Section 1, Paragraph 5 to be president of the United States.
He was born in Miami.
So he's not a natural-born citizen. Being born in Miami, Florida, with two parents who are Cuban nationals makes him a native-born citizen, not a natural-born citizen.
That's not what the Supreme Court has held in the past.
No, sir. Show me the court case. Every time somebody has said that to me, I have said, show me the court case, and not a single person yet has showed me a court case that redefines natural-born citizen from what the founders knew.
There's your case, guy. Wong Kim Ark.
No, that is not correct. They never said he was a natural-born citizen. They said he was a citizen by birth,
exactly,
based on the 14th Amendment. They did not say he was a natural-born citizen.
Well, hey, Guy, are you a constitutional lawyer? Because I am.
To be a natural-born citizen,
hey,
the
Guy, did you go to law school and specialize in constitutional law? Because I did.
I've had a lot of legal training, and if you'll let me finish.
Wait. No. Because you've talked enough on my show, Guy. You keep throwing at me natural-born citizen, and I'm telling you, not only did I go to law school, and my highest grade in law school was constitutional law, it was my specialty, and I can tell you pretty consistently, federal courts over the years have taken Wong Kim Ark and said, if you're born in this country through parents who are not natives of this country, but live in this country with the permission of the government, which was the fact pattern of Wong Kim Ark, you are considered an American citizen at birth, and that's how they interpret Article 2 of the Constitution. Whether it's Nikki Haley or it's Marco Rubio or it's Barack Obama, you can have your crazy view, but your view is not only mainline, it's defiant to the United States Constitution. Now, how do I know this? Ask me how I know this. Because I went to law school, Guy, and studied this. There is not a doubt in anyone's mind other than your mind, Guy, that Marco Rubio, born in Miami, Florida, can't become president of the United States. Why? Because of Wong Kim Ark. In the 1890s, the Supreme Court decided, and that's why we have this case on birthright citizenship before the United States Supreme Court now, because Wong Kim Ark's parents were legally admitted into the United States, though not American citizens. And then Wong Kim Ark was born in the United States, and the Supreme Court held that by virtue of the 14th Amendment, he is a citizen of the United States of America. And, Guy, there's this entire thing in constitutional law you may have heard of called amendments to the Constitution. And when you amend the Constitution of the United States of America, it changes underlying terminology. And so the underlying terminology of Article 2 of the United States Constitution is interpreted now through the 14th Amendment of the Constitution of the United States of America. And if I'm making you sound like I think you're a blithering idiot, Guy, it's because I am. Why? Because I went to law school and I know things. All persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and the state thereof are citizens of the United States. Now, let's go to the United States Constitution and let's look at the United States Constitution and see what the Constitution says. Article 1, Section 1. The executive power of the United States is vested in a president of the United States of America. Now, what are his qualifications? Section Clause 4, no person except a natural-born citizen or a citizen of the United States at the adoption of this Constitution shall be eligible for office. What does it mean to be a natural-born citizen? Well, because of the 14th Amendment, we must consider all persons born or naturalized in the United States or subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States of America. Now, what do we have to do? We have to go back to Article 2, and we say no person except a natural-born citizen, meaning someone who is born in this country. All persons born are citizens of the United States. If they're born in the United States, and a natural-born citizen means a citizen born inside the United States. How do I know? Again, I went to law school and know the answer that Guy thinks he knows because he probably read it on the internet, as opposed to going to law school and learning these things. Those of you left on the phones, I am sorry. I went long educating Guy, who appeared to be educated beyond his capacity to be educated further, and I'm sure has stormed off into the beautiful weather of Vero Beach to insist that I am wrong without being able to tell me. It's kind of like the people who don't think we landed on the moon or the earth is flat. You read a phrase in the United States Constitution written 200 plus years ago, and you forget about how it's interpreted through the amendments and the body of case law that comes with it and insist you are an expert. It's easy to do. The brilliance of our Constitution is that it's written so just about anybody can read it and understand it. But then there are those who are educated beyond their capacity to understand the basic things. The rule of thumb has always been that if you are born in this country, you are a citizen with the possible exception of illegal aliens. If your parents are given permission to be here for sure from Wonka Mark and you're born here, you're treated as a natural-born American citizen. That's the law. There's case law to back it up. So, sorry, Guy, you're wrong on this one. Marco Rubio can be president, just like Nikki Haley can, just like Barack Obama could, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Now, I need to tell you guys about Perfectly Snug. If you go to perfectlysnug.com/Eric, you can get a great night's sleep. I use a sleep tracker, and I've been getting great night's sleep since I've got my Perfectly Snug mattress topper because it heats and it cools. It's like having air conditioning for your bed. Our house was hot last night, and I turned on the cooling system on the Perfectly Snug, and it doesn't use like water circulators and stuff like that. It's very quiet. It uses fans. You could actually watch the sheets inflate. It was blowing so much cool air through. It really works. Even Oprah Winfrey loves this thing. Perfectlysnug.com/Eric. Perfectlysnug.com/ERICK. Get up to $280 off at perfectlysnug.com/Eric. It also heats. I have had to use it the last couple of weeks. Turns out I got ligaments. It's not muscles, but my back's been real sore. And the Perfectly Snug mattress topper have used the heating feature. It's so much better than sleeping on a heating pad. It's the whole mattress, and it's so comfortable. Perfectlysnug.com/Eric. Perfectlysnug.com/ERICK.